It is once again time for our weekly Royal Rumble countdown of the top 10 greatest championship matches in Royal Rumble history. I started this countdown 2 weeks ago. We are 2 matches in. We are now up to number 8. And I dropped a little tease earlier in the show that the number 8 happened to be relevant to this particular match in the countdown. Reason being, it marked the 8th WWE Championship victory for The Rock in his very first meeting with CM Punk at the 2013 Royal Rumble in Phoenix, Arizona, which just so happens to be the location for next year's Royal Rumble. They're going to be back in Phoenix. I like this match. I know there's people who are going to be wondering why this match is on the countdown, and some of you may love this match, and others are going to wonder why it's even on here, because they just don't look back fondly on it, or they thought The Rock was too slow, whatever their excuse. Maybe they just didn't like the finish. I know a lot of people were very angry at how this match went down and how this match ended, and especially if you're a CM Punk fan, you probably don't like this match being in the countdown. But I like this match, and I liked it when I first reviewed it back on Sound Off episode 258. And so I had watched it again recently for the first time, probably since then, and I enjoyed it. And in watching it back, my opinion has not changed. The tension here, much of it playing off of Punk's real feelings, dates all the way back to that pipe bomb promo that he cut on Raw in June of 2011, when Punk talked about how it made him sick that Dwayne was in the main event of WrestleMania the following year and not him. So that's how far back this story goes. The seed was planted with the pipe bomb. Fast forward over a year, to Raw 1000, the first permanent 3-hour Monday Night Raw, the beginning of our long national suffering, in July of 2012. The Rock is on that show that night, and he announces that he had just beaten John Cena months earlier at WrestleMania in Miami. Here on this show, he announced that whoever was the WWE Champion, come Royal Rumble in January, he would be challenging them for the championship. Champion at the time just so happened to be CM Punk. And that was the night that Punk attacked The Rock at the end of the show. Rock went to go give Big Show a people's elbow, and Punk came out of nowhere and clotheslined him and then laid him out with the go to sleep. And he turned heel. There was a great build-up package, a great video package that aired for this match. You should all go back and watch it. Even if you don't watch the match, watch the video package. This is one of the better ones I think that WWE has ever done. And it included, of course, clips of the famous quote from CM Punk that he used on Raw when he told The Rock, "Your arms are just too short to box with God," which is such a great line. Not an original one. It was used. That was actually the name of a Broadway musical long before Punk ever used it. And before that, it originated in a fiction novel that was published over 100 years before this pay-per-view. So for any Punk fans who think he came up with that on his own, he did not, although it doesn't make it any less of a fantastic line. The Shield had beaten up The Rock 6 days before the pay-per-view. They laid him out with the triple powerbomb. There was some question about whether or not Paul Heyman was in cahoots with the Shield and had paid them off. CM Punk was in cahoots with them. Punk played it off like he had nothing to do with the Shield. He kept saying that over and over again. I have nothing to do with the Shield. Vince McMahon said that if the Shield interfered in this match at the Royal Rumble, Punk would be stripped of the WWE title. So we get to the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and The Rock cuts this total white meat babyface promo right before the match, backstage. Clearly watched Dusty Rhodes' Hard Times promo before this, or remembered the promo. Maybe he watched it again, I don't know. But he was definitely modeling his promo here after the Hard Times promo, which is not a bad one to steal from or to emulate, right down to putting his hand out, kind of the way Dusty did. And Dusty, if you remember, he said, "I'm putting my hand out to touch yours." Rock put his hand out, and to all the fans watching at home, he talked about overcoming adversity and how he had $7 in his pocket when he was 24 years old and was kicked out of the Canadian Football League. And, people get passed over for opportunities at work. I was half expecting him to start talking about, giving him a watch, kicking him in the butt, and telling him that a computer took your place, daddy. But he didn't do that. He promised to end the 434-day nightmare of CM Punk as WWE Champion. We had Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, and JBL on commentary. JBL was absolutely insufferable during and after this match, especially after the match, but we'll get to that, because even Michael Cole was fed up with him by the time this was over. He kept going on and on. JBL did about 10 years since The Rock was last champion, and Muhammad Ali, he won the world title in boxing 10 years apart, and now The Rock is trying to be Muhammad Ali. And there was little drama here as far as who was going to win this match. We already knew we were getting Rock and Cena in a rematch at WrestleMania. Rock beat Cena at WrestleMania in Miami. Cena won the Royal Rumble match earlier on this show to earn the right to challenge for the championship at WrestleMania. A blindfolded drunk man who couldn't read a map to save his life could see where this was going. And that did hurt the match to an extent, but it didn't ruin, I don't think it ruins the overall enjoyment of the match and what they did here and the story they were trying to tell, predictable though it may have been. In this case, predictable worked. It worked for the fans in the building because they never turned on The Rock. They were behind him 100% through and through, which was kind of weird to watch because you know that if this happened today, The Rock would be booed by at least half, if not the entire building. Now, he's The Rock, so I don't think he would ever be booed by the entire building, but there would be a very vocal either minority or a small majority of the crowd who absolutely would boo him and would cheer for the heel. And in fact, it was only a year after this that Batista did come back and did get booed out of the building. Fans resented him being the chosen one over Daniel Bryan. He was the part-timer taking a spot away from the guy that they loved and they felt deserved it more. And you didn't really have that here, even though it was kind of the same situation. Punk is champion for 434 days. Rock comes in, part-timer, to take the title away from him, and even worse, to take the title away from him just to get it back onto John Cena. I'm surprised there wasn't a fan rebellion in the building that night, but there wasn't. The Rocky story, well, no pun intended, the Rocky story worked here. Rock made it work. And so the crowd was into it. This had a big fight feel, when these guys first came out and they did the ring intros. Yes, there are parts of this match that are slow, and Rock is selling for Punk. Rock looks gassed at some parts of the match. Honestly, not as bad as the first match with Cena, but that was his first singles match in, 8 years, I think? So you can almost understand it. He didn't come off to me anyways being quite as gassed as he was at a lot of parts in that Cena match. But it did pick up as things went along. This was the second time, by the way, in a WWE title match at the Royal Rumble where The Rock went for a rock bottom on top of the announce desk and the table gave way and collapsed early. Here, to make up for it, Rock improvised and just gave Punk a rock bottom on the floor. I'm not sure that... I would say that's probably worse. Anybody who's ever been slammed or fell from a great height onto even like a padded surface like that, especially if you're not ready for it. I mean, these guys can brace themselves. They know what's coming. I've told that story before, being on the monkey bars at the park, and my father said, drop, I'll catch you. And I dropped, and he didn't catch me. And I just landed. I took a flat back bump on the ground. Thankfully, there was padding. It wasn't concrete. But boy, did that knock the wind out of me. You can't breathe. It's actually a really scary feeling. I think he was concerned. All I remember hearing was laughter. But anyway. So he gave him a rock bottom on the floor. And Rock had Punk set up for the people's elbow. When the lights went out, the building went dark. And you could hear there's a commotion. Michael Cole is just screaming. He says, "It's the Shield." And they give Rock a triple powerbomb, even though we can't see it, through the announce table, and they leave. Lights come back on. There's no Shield, but the Rock is laid out. Michael Cole is losing his mind over this. Punk comes over. He goes to bring the Rock back inside. He hears Cole screaming, and he just says to Cole, "What?" He goes, "I have nothing to do with the Shield." Wink, wink. Rolls Rock back inside. And this actually was shocking, even now to watch this back. It was shocking because, first of all, so much time had passed. From the time the lights came back on, Rock is laying out there, Punk's in the ring, Punk has to crawl to the outside, lug the Rock into the ring, climb back into the ring. You could have fit a whole match into the amount of time it took for Punk to go and pin The Rock, and he pinned him. Rock never kicked out, never got a shoulder up. He pinned him. And I don't think many people were expecting that kind of false finish. But CM Punk did pin The Rock to retain the championship. Let the record reflect that CM Punk got a visual pin on The Rock. Unfortunately for him, visual is all that it was. Now, it's funny. They cut to the crowd. You see some fans very disappointed, and they have their hands on their head. They're very upset. Punk and Heyman are celebrating like they just hit the lottery. All of a sudden, No Chance in Hell hits, and Vince McMahon power walks out. Now, JBL is so awful here. He is so annoyingly awful. He will not shut up. He's sticking up for Punk retaining. He's saying the referee didn't see the Shield, so it's fair game. And that's fine for him to point all that out. I guess he's the heel announcer, but he starts to go, he goes, wah, 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 you don't cry over sports entertainment, which is such a cringy line to begin with. He goes, you don't cry over sports entertainment. Before he could even finish the line, Michael Cole just goes, shut up. Like in the most disgusted tone that you've ever heard. He just tells JBL, shut up. And he does. Well, I mean, Vince McMahon was about to speak, so he was going to shut up anyway. But what's great about this, not only does JBL finally shut up, right? But as Vince is coming out, before he actually starts speaking, the camera, they cut briefly to a shot of the announcers. They don't know that they're on camera. They clearly don't know that they're on camera because their table and their monitors have been destroyed. And you can see what I have to believe was a look of genuine aggravation and disgust on Michael Cole's face. JBL has this almost sheepish look on his face. He's looking at Vince McMahon. He's just been told, this guy just told him to shut up. He's probably very embarrassed. But Cole just has this look on his face. It's like, can we just get this over with already so I can get the hell out of here? It was priceless. And I know the two of them are friends, and look, maybe it was played up, but in that moment, when he did not realize, I don't think, that he was on camera, you take a look at the look on Michael Cole's face. That look says it all. So Vince McMahon says, look, I warned CM Punk that if the Shield got involved, he would be stripped of the championship. And he goes to strip him. But before he could do so, The Rock grabs a microphone and he says, no, we're not ending this night like that. He goes, you're not taking the title from him, I am. And he yells that the referee should ring the bell to restart the match, and Vince McMahon says, you heard the man, restart the match. And as the match starts, JBL, who just got told off by Michael Cole, you know it's just driving him nuts. He can't help himself. He can't let it go. He tells Cole, if you ever tell me to shut up again, I'm going to put you through a table. And Punk goes and he is kicking The Rock's ass for a little bit. And he gives him the Macho Man diving elbow off the top. Goes for the go to sleep. Rock jiggles out of it. Hits a spine buster. People's elbow. 1, 2, 3. Rock wins his 8th WWE title. And just like that, CM Punk's 434-day run is over. And, if you listen closely at the finish when Rock goes for the pin, he makes sure to thank CM Punk before he beats him. Seth Rollins did the same thing with Roman Reigns. As he pinned him to win the title at WrestleMania 31, that's when he cashed in Money in the Bank. You could audibly, as the referee is counting 1, 2, 3, you can audibly hear Rollins telling Roman Reigns, thank you so much. Probably because Roman was not... I'm sure Roman was happy for Seth, but I'm also sure that he probably wasn't too thrilled that Vince had made the call that, you know what? You're not going to win the championship. We know how Roman's father felt. Remember the story about that? Sika? He was fit to be tied when WrestleMania was over that year that Roman did not win the championship, as I'm sure he was probably either told or figured that he would. He was not a happy man. So I thought the false finish that they did here, it worked. But my one big gripe about this is that after 434 days as champion, CM Punk loses to a fucking people's elbow. Like, I didn't like it then. I don't like it anymore now. That's my only real gripe with this outside of JBL's commentary. Now, I know The Rock beat him with the rock bottom the very next month at Elimination Chamber when they had the rematch, so Maybe that's why they did it that way. They figure, well, we'll do the People's Elbow for the finish at the Rumble, and then I'll beat you with the Rock Bottom at the Elimination Chamber. Maybe that was the thought process behind that. But for a run like that, a run that long, a run that dominant, to end to a move like the People's Elbow, it would almost be as bad as losing to the Worm or to Santino's Cobra. For a 434-day run as champion to end like that just felt weak to me. But the crowd popped huge when Rock won. Punk had one last chance. He lost to The Rock at Elimination Chamber, but he had one last chance to earn a spot in the WrestleMania main event. All he had to do was beat John Cena on Monday Night Raw in a number one contenders match. That match is one of the great matches in Raw history. That's the famous pile driver match where CM Punk hit a pile driver on John Cena and they got chewed out backstage after the match for doing so. But unfortunately for him, it was not to be. He lost that match. And, these 2 years here, 2012, and Punk was champion for all of 2012. There was not a single day on the calendar in the year 2012 that CM Punk did not wake up as WWE champion. And he was only champion for a few weeks, obviously, here at the beginning of 2013. But these 2 years, especially 2013, this was really Punk's chance. This was his real only chance, realistically, to get into the WrestleMania main event. And The Rock fucked him out of it both times. The Rock fucked him out of it both times. And instead, he ended up wrestling The Undertaker at WrestleMania that year in what I thought was a really good match. Rock and Cena had their rematch, which was not a really good match. It was the opposite of a really good match. A year later, Punk quit the company, and he has not been back since. And it's a damn shame that we never got a John Cena CM Punk main event at WrestleMania, because I think those two would have torn it up. I think those two had incredible chemistry together. I think they could have, and I'm not a huge fan of doing multi-man matches in WrestleMania main events. You guys know this. But if ever there was a time to insert a third man into that match and make it a triple threat, I think WrestleMania 29 should have been it. Especially now that I look back. I just thought that match sucked. The first Rock Cena match was good. The second one sucked. I'm sorry. And I think it would have been a far better match had Punk been part of it. But it wasn't even just from a match quality standpoint. Punk was tied to both of these guys directly for so long. I really think that should have been a triple threat match. But, they had their vision of what that match was supposed to be. They still could have had John Cena win. But they had their vision of what that match was supposed to be. And for Punk, it was just not meant to be. But I think 2013 would have been the year. If ever he was going to make it in, that was going to be it.